And I will say, y'all have to excuse me, I usually don't read very much, I usually just more talk and less reading, but I've been in South Dakota pheasant hunting for the last 9 days, so I didn't really have time to memorize my speech today, so y'all bear with me on that. It was well worth it though, I promise. In 1968, TVA released its Duck River Project Planning Report. That report was a comprehensive study addressing all aspects of completing the Columbia and Normandy Dam reservoirs. TVA utilized all its resources, expertise, and in-depth research to reach the conclusion that both projects were viable. The need for water wasn't even a major concern in that conclusion. Fast forward 57 years, and here we are behind the power curve, in our search for the best long-term solution to provide water to all of us living in the basin. It is becoming increasingly apparent that we are nearing decisions that will address our short-term need for water, but we have yet to come up with a viable long-term solution. The best long-term solution providing that precious resource must meet certain criteria. We believe that there are 3 objectives at the top of that list. 1, it must provide the most adequate source of water for the next 75 to 100 years. Second, it must be the most affordable option available to the recipients of that water. And thirdly, it must do the least amount of damage possible. It is our belief that when you apply those standards, the only viable option available is to rebuild the Columbia Dam. We have spent the last 8 months combing through mountains of data from the studies and reports completed by just about every agency that has ever seen the Duck River. And when you get to the heart of the matter, this dam is not only possible, but it also should be rebuilt. In relation to the Columbia Dam, people talk of karst geology, environmental impact concerns, and land acquisition. We know that the concerns of the karst geology and environmental impacts can be mitigated because of technological advancements and studies done that have proven so. Addressing the karst geology, engineering advancements that have been made over the past 50 years drastically reduce the concern of water loss in the areas like the region in which we reside. Grout curtains, cutoff walls, diaphragm slurry walls, sheet pile walls, blanket grouting, which is impermeable blankets, clay or geosynthetic liners, geomembranes, or bentonite blankets, along with drainage galleries and pressure relief walls, and tow drains are all ways to address the problems presented in dealing with karst geology. Knowing the environment in which the dam and reservoir will be constructed ahead of time will almost certainly combat any problem that our geological region presents and mitigate the costs surrounding those issues. From an environmental perspective, we have also learned over the years that the biodiversity of the Duck River can be protected and endangered species can be saved through proven practices while solving our long-time water solution with a reservoir. From the 2020 Duck River Quantitative Mussel Survey from the TWRA and partner agencies, a statement came: these animals were introduced through captive propagation and or translocation from the closest viable populations throughout their ranges. The river is a primary source for many broods and translocation stock, as well as a recipient stream of previously extirpated mussels species, which is basically reintroduced for translocations. Beginning in 1979, the TVA established 22 quantitative mussel monitoring sites upstream of Columbia in association with the Columbia Dam Project. Since 1991, reservoir releases improvement measures have resulted in higher dissolved oxygen concentrations and minimum flow releases, along with point source regulation and riparian habitat restoration activities. These management improvements are considered instrumental factors influencing the river's ongoing mussel recovery. Also referencing the 2010 Duck River Quantitative Mussel Survey, the history of freshwater mussels in the Duck River, and a 5-year monitoring. Through 5-year monitoring, there is evidence of reintroduction success, along with reports and studies done by individuals such as the esteemed Dr. D.D. Catherine, and we can surmise that mussels protection is possible. These sources demonstrate that the Duck River is used both as a donor and a recipient for reintroduced and translocated mussel species. There are many studies that prove moving mussels within the same waterway is highly successful. Along the length of the Duck River, water chemistry, host fish availability, flow, and habitat, as well as temperature and oxygen levels affirm that relocating mussels within the river will result in a success rate from 70 to 90%. Some of the mussel relocations in other rivers around the country, such as in Illinois on the Kishwaukee River, mussels were moved in that river, the same waterway, 93% success rate. In Idaho, in Tin Cup Creek, there were 1,213 western pearl shell mussels that were moved. They had a 91.3 success rate. In Texas, in the San Saba River, they had a state-threatened mussel that was moved with an 85% success rate. So what we learned is that the dam in construction and building the reservoir does not mean the demise of the mussel population. In short, moving the mussels within the same waterway would reduce disease risk, and this is a common conservation practice when construction projects such as bridges or dams threaten mussels in a particular reach. We also believe that the concerns about large amounts of land acquisition are not necessary because this project involves providing a long-term solution for water first and foremost. It is our desire to make as minimal an impact in this realm as possible in completing our project. And I have 3 maps that show a 1980s map that shows some 27,000 acres needed for a 12,600 acre reservoir. That is not what we are trying to do. That is not within the scope of this project. We need water. We're not looking for PUDs, planned urban developments. That was part of that map. Campgrounds, recreation areas, boat ramps. Obviously, to access the lake, you're going to have a boat ramp, but we're not looking for all those other things. So we think that the 27,000 acre map from previous years is completely irrelevant today because we're just looking for the 12,600 acre water impoundment to be our 75 to 100 year solution. The other thing is flood control. Everyone knows that the dam will help mitigate flood risk in the downstream area below the dam, Hickman County, Centerville, and on to the Tennessee River. We have talked to farmers in that region. I'm sure many of you have and know some. But when there is flooding, they have crop loss. They also have soil erosion. They are continually having to bring in riprap and use other measures to help from losing their agricultural land. This dam would mitigate that problem. And lastly, before I turn it over to Dave Crouch, who's going to talk about the financial aspects of this project, I want to let you know, I spoke with our Congressman Andy Ogles the day before yesterday on my way back from South Dakota. And as we all know right now, our government is shut down. And so we are trying to get the feasibility study appropriated, attached to a bill that's running through Congress. Well, since the government shut down right now, that's not possible. So Andy told me, and this is his comment, and he is very much for this effort. He said, due to the government shutdown and continuing resolution, I will need to get with the chairman of the committee to get clarity on the timeline for the appropriation for the Columbia Dam. This effort is ongoing. So I wanted to share that statement with you because it is important, because what we're trying to do at the end of the day is, along with the things that I have just spoken to you about, get that feasibility study so we can get some validity behind what we already know. But we need to do the feasibility study. And so that's where we are. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. David Crouch to get going.